Have you ever felt overwhelmed by too much stuff, too many commitments, or too much negativity in your life? You're not alone. As we get older, the clutter in our homes, minds, and relationships can feel suffocating. But what if I told you that clearing just 7 key areas could bring instant relief and help you feel lighter and more energized? In this video, I'm going to show you 7 simple, life-changing steps to declutter your space and your life. By the end, you'll feel empowered to enter the new year with a renewed sense of clarity and purpose. Stick around until the end. These 7 steps can make a world of difference in your happiness and well-being. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you never miss a video. 1. Physical clutter. Physical clutter can feel like an invisible weight, gradually accumulating in our lives until it dominates our space, thoughts, and emotions. These are the objects that once had meaning, but now take up space and energy without offering anything in return. Whether it's old clothes, outdated kitchen gadgets, or sentimental knickknacks, these items contribute to a growing sense of overwhelm. Think about those clothes, perhaps a dress or pair of pants that once fit perfectly, but now only serve as a reminder of a different time in your life. The coat from a loved one, though rarely worn, holds on to emotional ties. These objects carry weight, often tying us to the past in ways we don't fully recognize. Now consider the kitchen gadgets. Those juicers, slicers, and specialty tools might have once seemed essential, but now they sit unused, contributing to a cluttered space and a distracted mind. Finally, there are the knickknacks, figures or pictures that once sparked joy, but now blend into the background. The sentimental value is lost as time passes. In my own journey, I realized how deeply physical clutter impacts not just my space, but my emotional state. I once held on to an old jacket, remembering vibrant days, but letting it go brought an unexpected lightness. Releasing physical clutter isn't just about tidying up, it's about making space for the present, not being tethered to the past. Imagine walking into a home free from unnecessary clutter, where only the essentials, those that bring confidence, joy, and ease, remain. This process requires honesty and patience, but with each item you release, you make space for what truly matters. 2. Negative relationships. Negative relationships act as invisible chains that slowly tighten around your life, restricting your emotional freedom. These individuals drain your energy, leaving you feeling unappreciated, depleted, and even invisible. Whether a friend, family member, or colleague, their negativity seeps into interactions and weighs you down. Think about those who never truly listen to you. You spend hours offering support, only to realize they never ask how you're doing. The one-sided dynamic can chip away at your self-esteem, leaving you feeling undervalued. Even worse, some relationships disguise criticism as concern. Constant comments on your choices or lifestyle without any real understanding. These interactions can erode your confidence, making you doubt your decisions. In my life, I've encountered people whose mere presence felt like carrying an invisible burden. It took time to recognize how toxic these relationships were, but walking away was a crucial act of self-care. Letting go of negative relationships isn't about being unkind, it's about prioritizing your well-being. Relationships should nourish you, not drain you. Surround yourself with people who inspire you and uplift your spirit. Letting go creates space for healthier, more fulfilling connections. 3. Outdated or unused technology. Old technology often finds its way into the forgotten corners of our homes. At first glance, these items may seem nostalgic, but they carry the weight of things we no longer need. Every time you see an old phone, charger, or outdated laptop, you're reminded of a past version of yourself. These objects might stir feelings of regret or loss, and while the memories remain, the physical items are no longer necessary. I held on to an old MP3 player for years, a gift from a dear friend. Parting with it felt like saying goodbye to a piece of my youth, but in donating it, I realized I was freeing myself from unnecessary baggage. Letting go of outdated technology might feel daunting, especially when these items hold sentimental value. But the truth is, they tie us to the past. Our homes are meant to be places of peace and functionality, and old gadgets take up valuable space. Beyond the emotional weight, there's the practical aspect. Old technology contributes to the growing problem of digital waste. Recycling and donating these items can give them new life and reduce environmental harm. Imagine how it would feel to open your drawers and find only the items you use. How much clearer your mind would be when you know you've freed yourself from the weight of obsolete gadgets. 4. Mental clutter. Mental clutter, the worries, regrets, and fears about the future, can suffocate our ability to live in the present. It feels as though our minds become crowded with noise, making it impossible to experience peace. Unlike physical clutter, mental clutter is invisible, but its effects are deeply felt. It disrupts our thinking, and over time, it manifests in sleepless nights, irritability, and even physical discomfort. Regrets from the past creep in like a haunting melody. The what-ifs linger, weighing us down emotionally. On the other hand, worries about the future plant seeds of doubt, creating scenarios that may never even happen. Mental clutter feels like carrying an invisible, overflowing backpack. Every regret is a stone, every worry a brick. But mental clutter doesn't define us. Letting go of it is essential for our well-being. The first step is acknowledging its presence. Focus on the present moment, because that's all we truly have. Techniques like journaling, mindfulness, and talking to someone you trust can help. Remind yourself that you deserve peace and joy. By releasing mental clutter, you create space for clarity, for living a life filled with lightness and freedom. 5. Old hobbies. There's a unique kind of nostalgia that comes with realizing a hobby you once loved no longer brings you joy. It's a bittersweet acknowledgement of the passage of time, a gentle reminder that we as individuals are constantly evolving. Perhaps it's the stack of knitting supplies gathering dust in the corner, the gardening tools tucked away in the shed, or the fishing rod that hasn't seen a lake in years. These hobbies may have once been your sanctuary, your source of peace or excitement, but now they feel more like remnants of a version of yourself you've outgrown. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. Letting go of old hobbies can feel like saying goodbye to an old friend. It's natural to feel a pang of sadness as you reflect on the memories tied to them, the hours spent creating, learning, and finding solace in these activities. For me, it was painting. I used to lose myself in the colors and strokes, the way they blended into something beautiful on the canvas. But over time, the joy faded, and I began to feel more frustrated than fulfilled. 4 years I held on to the idea that I should still love painting because it had once meant so much to me. Letting it go felt like letting a piece of myself drift away. But here's what I've learned. Holding on to a hobby that no longer serves you doesn't honor the person you were. It traps you in a cycle of guilt and obligation. Our hobbies are meant to enrich our lives, not weigh us down. By continuing to invest time and energy into something that no longer resonates, we prevent ourselves from exploring new interests, or even from simply resting when we need to. Letting go is not an admission of failure or a loss. Instead, it's an act of self-love and acceptance. It's acknowledging that your needs and passions have shifted and giving yourself the freedom to evolve. I found that once I let go of painting, I discovered a love for writing. It became my new creative outlet, one that aligned with the person I had grown into. Writing gave me a sense of purpose and expression that painting no longer could, and it wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't created the space for it. Of course, letting go can be an emotional process. It might mean saying goodbye to a part of your identity or facing the fear that you're losing touch with the past. But rather than seeing it as a loss, try reframing it as a celebration of everything that hobby gave you. Remember the lessons you learned, the joy it brought, and the ways it helped you grow. Those gifts remain with you, even if the activity itself no longer fits your life. 6. Unnecessary obligations. In the course of our lives, we often take on commitments and responsibilities that seem essential at the time. These might stem from a genuine desire to contribute, a need to fit in, or a sense of duty toward others. Over the years, however, many of these obligations have lost their meaning and value. They morph into invisible chains, subtly draining our time, energy, and emotional well-being, while giving little to nothing in return. It's not until we stop and reflect on why we continue to carry these burdens that we realize how much they weigh us down. Unnecessary obligations can take many forms. Perhaps it's a long-standing membership in a club or group you no longer feel connected to, but keep attending out of habit or guilt. Maybe it's a family tradition that no longer brings you joy but feels impossible to break without offending someone. It could even be a toxic relationship where you're the one constantly giving while receiving no support in return. These commitments, though seemingly small in isolation, can pile up and quietly erode our sense of freedom and joy. What's heartbreaking is that many of us cling to these obligations because we're afraid of the consequences of letting go. We worry about disappointing others, being judged, or feeling selfish. But here's the truth. Every time we say yes to an unnecessary obligation, we're saying no to something else, often something deeply personal and meaningful. It might be time to pursue a forgotten dream, to nurture relationships that truly matter, or simply to rest and recharge when you think about it. This way, the cost of holding on becomes too high. I've been there myself, trapped in a cycle of obligations that felt more like duties than choices. At one point, I was juggling so many commitments that I barely had time to breathe, let alone reflect on what truly mattered to me. It took a toll on my health and my happiness. But one day I made a decision that changed everything. I began to ask myself, does this add value to my life? Does it align with my goals and values? If the answer was no, I permitted myself to let it go. It wasn't easy. At first, the guilt was overwhelming and I feared how people might react. But as I started to step away from those obligations, something remarkable happened. I felt lighter, I felt freer. I realized that most people weren't upset. In fact, some respected me more for prioritizing my well-being. And for the few who didn't understand, I came to terms with the fact that their approval wasn't worth sacrificing my peace. Releasing unnecessary obligations is not just about decluttering your schedule. It's about reclaiming your life. It's about creating space for what truly matters, your passions, your health, your loved ones, and your dreams. When you free yourself from the weight of unnecessary commitments, you open the door to a life filled with intention and joy. 7. Unresolved past issues. Unresolved past issues, whether they are old grievances, regrets, or deeply rooted conflicts, are like emotional anchors that keep you moored in waters you desperately want to leave behind. They linger in the quiet moments of your life, whispering reminders of pain, guilt, or anger that you thought you had buried long ago. These unresolved emotions don't just affect your thoughts. They seep into your everyday interactions, your decisions, and even the way you perceive yourself. They can make the world seem heavier, the days longer, and joy harder to find. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Consider the weight of unspoken apologies. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your mind, wishing you dared to say, "I'm sorry," or "I forgive you"? These words left unsaid can grow into insurmountable barriers between you and the peace you deserve. Then there are the regrets, those aching thoughts of missed opportunities or wrong choices. Perhaps it was a career you didn't pursue, a love you let slip away, or a chance to repair a relationship that you let pass. These regrets can feel like permanent shadows following you wherever you go, dimming even the brightest moments. The pain of unresolved conflict can be even more devastating. The memory of a harsh argument with a loved one, the cold silence that followed, or the bitter end of a once-closed relationship can leave scars that never seem to heal. These conflicts don't just live in the past, they find ways to intrude into the present, influencing how you trust, connect, and love. It's as if these wounds weave themselves into the fabric of your identity, convincing you that this pain is a part of who you are, 4 years I struggled with unresolved issues from my past. I held on to anger that felt justified at the time, but only drained my energy. As the years went on, I carried guilt for things I couldn't change and blamed myself for situations that were never entirely in my control. I found myself trapped in a loop of what-ifs and if only, unable to fully engage with the life in front of me because I was so consumed by the life I wished I had lived differently. It was exhausting and it was lonely. But here's what I've learned. The past only has as much power over you as you allow it to have. Letting go of unresolved issues doesn't mean erasing the memories or pretending they didn't happen. It means choosing to no longer let them define you or dictate your future.